Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. We've got a great episode today with my good buddy, Dustin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing good. So Dustin's up in, what exact area are you in? Frisco, right?
Frisco.
DFW. So he owns a roofing company. They're getting into construction. He employs a lot of people. He just went out on his own. He's doing a lot of great stuff in the community, mainly is why I love everything he's doing. But it wasn't always champagne and roses, and it still isn't. So why don't you kind of get the listeners up on your story, kind of where you got started, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, so we can go way back to the early days. Way back if we go. So as far as I can remember, grew up in, just, I guess you'd say poverty, right? Grew up in the trailer park, bounced around. I know we bounced around a lot when I was really young. Can't remember, hey, how old are you when you go back? But I remember moving, 15 times in a few years, right? I remember switching schools because I remember like at one point I was going to school in Uvalde, and it was just crazy, man, because a few months ago, I guess, for whatever reason, probably one, I don't drink anymore. I don't do any of that crazy stuff, really. Kind of funny story. Last Saturday, man, we had people over for the fights. And I poured a drink and I had one. And I was like, ugh. And then I was pouring drinks for people and I was just pouring Dr. Pepper in because I don't look like a punk. But so these memories start coming back, man, as you know. And so I was like, man, I fucking remember this school, Pleasanton High School. How do I remember that? And then like a couple memories came back of it. But I remember like, I was in Uvalde. I was in like Seguin. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like we bounced around a lot, I was getting evicted, kicked out, living with friends, family, whatever it was. But, one specifically I remember was this address. It was 201 Jennifer Drive. And I vaguely remembered it because we lived there for a couple of years. It was this rundown trailer. And that was probably, man, the real part of my life where it started kicking in. And I think we were somewhere between, it was 8 to 10 years old, maybe somewhere in those lines, maybe 12. And the reason I know that it was pretty close to there was because I had someone very close to me die of suicide when I was 13. He was like my older brother, man. He was a cousin, but he lived with us ever since I was little. So since I can remember, he had lived with me. So he was like, I actually thought he was my brother forever. I didn't realize he was actually my cousin until later on in life. But he died when I was 13. So I remember right up to that point. But man, we lived in this trailer for 3-4 years. It was as rundown can be, man. It was I remember I had a fucking hole in my room, man, where you could actually sneak out. So, looking back now, I was like, wow, man, that actually been pretty cool. Like I just had a bunker to get out. But hey, man, I remember like one time coming home and there was it wasn't a rat, but there was a small little rodent in my room. And so like I put my mattress down over. I was like, man, this is crazy. It was 3 bedrooms, man. But like one of the bedrooms, you couldn't even go in. It's like outside. It had like caved in. So they'd like closed it off, Didn't have running water, didn't have electricity half the time, not food. Man, I still don't know who my real dad is to this day. I have no freaking idea, man. This guy could be my neighbor and I wouldn't know. I've tried a few things like the ancestry and tried to go back. It's been dead ends, but I have no clue who he is. Never met him. Talk about trials and tribulations with that, man. My mom, I have no relationship with my mom. Wish her the best, but she lied to me. Like I actually thought this other guy was my dad. We actually formed a really good relationship for a couple years, and my mom, told me this is your dad. Finally get to meet him, so I met him when I was like 15, 16. Started forming this relationship, man. This was kind of when I was going through some of my stuff. And then to come to find out, he wasn't even my dad. Like my mom had straight up like lied to me. So it's pretty, man, that fucking hurt, man, because I had just lost the closest person to me when I was 13. So then I meet my real dad when I'm probably 15 within a couple years, which I thought, and then find out he's not even my real dad. So it was, pretty traumatizing to go through all that. My stepdad, man, he's a good dude now. We don't have a relationship, but back then, man, he was strung out on drugs, alcohol, used to beat my mom. I remember coming home from school, man, we'd be like, fuck, man, is my mom going to be alive? Or I remember like there'd be fights and you'd leave, you'd run, I take my little brother and like, man, is mom going to be alive when we get back? Like, is this what it's going to be? Like, you know, they'd disappear for times on end. We'd have random people over. And look, man, you'd find, then you didn't know what it was, but now you would find like the aluminum foil that was burned. You'd find the powders. You'd find the needles. You'd find the spoons. You'd find this crazy shit, man. And you just thought like, hey, somebody must be cooking something on this aluminum foil. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now you're like, oh, well, I know what that was. So that's what I remember growing up, man. I remember the alcohol, the drugs. I remember like just the shit you're probably not supposed to go through, but you know, and back then you thought it was life, right? You thought it was just normal where we grew up.
And I think like I'm like, just so everybody knows, this is the first time I'm hearing the full story, and I'm almost emotional hearing about it because the sense of not there's no trust, there's rejection, there's so many things. There's no stability would be an understatement. There's no stability by any stretch of the imagination. So as a kid in your formidable years, as you look on and back at now, you know, you were just living your life. But I would imagine that spurred on the chaos that ensued for a couple years until we got where we are today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was tough, man, because, you know, you go through those things and, you know, hey, man, I loved my mom for forever. Like letting go of my mom out of my life is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It's tough, man. You never, even when you go through all that stuff, man, it's your mom, right? Like you love your mom, and not knowing my real dad, and you know, was never close to my stepdad. I mean, I remember he used to smack us around for no reason. It was like, hey, did we not shut the door right or grab something fast enough? You know, and it was tough. I remember one year, man, me and my brother still talk about it. And my brother's, you know, he's lived a very tough life. One year for Christmas, man, the only gifts we got were from a church. And it was like a plastic sword from like the dollar store and this like basketball. And I got the basketball and I wanted it, but my brother, he fucking wanted the basketball and he got the sword. So like I gave him the basketball and I was like, you know, we didn't get anything. But like you said, back then you thought it was life. But like I was really close to my grandfather and my grandma. But my parents would like steal from them and just crazy shit. So like you would go to this where you would be able to escape, let's say for a month or so, but then there would something go down and then you weren't allowed over at grandma's because of mom and dad or whatever. And so, you know, it was just crazy. You're always pulled in different directions, you know, with the moves, obviously with the drugs. And it was tough. And so now when you look back on it, you're like, man, all this chaos I went through from as far as back as I remember 16, 17, you know, we were laughing at school the other day. I was talking to one of my buddies. He's like, dude, remember you had like 150 referrals in like 1 year. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's crazy. I don't know how I didn't get kicked out. I think it was because I was a good person, I had a big heart. It's just, there was so much, man, I didn't know what I didn't know. When you don't think you're wrong, when you grew up to where like, you know, I remember like my stepdad, like stealing things from people and, you know, just the way he acted, there was no consequences for your action. The way we acted, there's obviously no consequences. And so like when you go through life like that, man, as you get older, it's just ingrained into you. Like you laugh, people laugh. It's like you're ingrained almost white trash. That's what your lifestyle. And, you know, I know you do the videos too of you know, joking around in the hillbillies and we joke about it, but you know, hey man, sometimes it really is. And it takes a lot to break it, man. It took me fucking years to break it, man. It caused problems with my wife, crazy stuff.
And see, that's what people don't understand. You're breaking a generational systemic problem. It's not just one problem. It's years and years of a family that has, you know, and so like just a side note, because I think about, I don't know why it popped in my head. When they did, you know, the show Extreme Home Makeover, right? Yeah. Oh, great. You got him a new home. I don't give a shit. When I used to lose it, like cry, is when they gave the kids like college education for free.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, you just changed like generations, right?
Yes.
And that's what people don't understand. These shiny objects and shit doesn't matter. To change, you know, I heard something the other day on a talk. The devil is not in you. It's in your community. He is getting in the trailer park. He is all around. And you think that it's just about you. He is in everything. Like, yeah. You know, and that's
everywhere you look.
Yeah, it's everywhere you look. And it's this cycle of over and over again. Well, I can't do better. Well, then I try to do better and then I get knocked down. I try to do better, I get knocked down. So why don't you take us through, which I'd imagine was a wild time. I think you got me beat, but I might be able to go with you. Talk about from like 16 on, like ending high school, was it pretty crazy there for a while with the drugs and everything?
So yeah, hope I have immunity, right? So man, I don't want to incriminate anyone, myself, and I think, and going through all that stuff, right? Like you said perfectly, it's everywhere around you. Think it's acceptable. You think drinking is acceptable. You think drugs are acceptable, right? Like it was weird, man. But one thing I can always remember was that no matter what, and I don't know where you get this from, right? I really don't. But there's a crazy story, man. So like my brother that died, he was my best friend, man. He was my idol. There were some crazy stories you try to talk or you get real emotional about, but people used to say he was my guardian angel, and that's how it was. And when he died, man, when he killed himself when I was 13, it was the fucking hardest thing I've ever gone through. It broke me, man, mentally. There's not too many things that have ever broke me mentally. And right before he died, man, the craziest story ever was we were hungry and we didn't have food. We had no food in our house. My mom and dad are fighting and they're beating the crap out of each other in the house. And we're sitting outside the trailer. We're sitting in this like old truck that didn't work. And he had like gone to the store and somehow got some steaks. I don't know how he got them, right? But he got them because he's like, man, I can't let you go hungry, right? And so we were cooking them like literally in the ground, like man, like we lit a fire and he was like cooking them in the ground. And that song, Travis Tritt, "I'm Gonna Be Somebody," came on, right?
Shut the fuck up, dude. That's my song. Don't you dare.
Yeah, man, I swear. And the craziest part, man, is he's like, hey, man, we're gonna be somebody someday. And it gives me chills, man, but it was fucking ingrained in me, man, my whole life. And I remember at 13, and remember I'm 37 now, and that's a long time ago to come on. And I would just remember from that day in my life, I was like, this is my fucking life right now, man, but it's not gonna be my life forever. And what was crazy was even in the short-term game, man, I'm so impatient. I'm so impatient when it comes to like day-to-day stuff. Like I can't sit still. I want results yesterday. Like I'm that guy. But what's really strange for me is in the long-term game, I'm patient as fuck. And I know that like, hey man, I know that it doesn't take. So even though it might have taken me, 20, 30 years to get to where I'm at, I knew I was going to get there. And so I had it in my brain, like, man, this is my life now, but it's not going to be my life forever. Me sleeping on this park bench, this is just a step to where I'm going to be. And I don't know where that came from. And I don't know if it's from a song. It sounds crazy, but it's in crazy stories. You want to talk? My wife, we've been together 7 years, man. Greatest thing that ever happened to me. And she when we first met, she didn't know these stories, and we talked. And man, no joke, I had this Acura when I first met her. I had a Tahoe and an Acura, and I paid cash for the Acura. And it was a decent car, man. It was like the TXL, the upgraded one. But man, the light in the stereo went out, and it never worked. And so one day we were driving to the casino, and she was like, "Man, talk to me about your brother." And I was like, okay, whatever. And we were listening to music, man, on the radio. And no joke, as we're talking about it, the freaking radio light started working, okay? And it started getting like staticky. And we were talking about like how songs that meant to me. And she was like, I've never heard that song. My wife didn't listen to country when we met her. And that song came on. And we're in the middle of fucking Oklahoma. Hey, man, I swear, like, if you could call my wife right now. And like, there's crazy stuff that has happened in my life, man. And that's not a song that doesn't come on very often, like ever, right? Ever. And that song came on, and it comes on so randomly. The other day, we were in a store. She goes, do you hear the song that's on? And she'll get chills. And it, like, we'll walk into like, hey, man, we walked into like Belk, right? Like, and that song came on. Like, I don't know if that's on the playlist. And she's like, oh my God, like just crazy stuff, right? And so that's been my whole life. So, man, at one point in my life, probably 14, 15, man, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I remember there's an instance where my stepdad like had basically like slapped my little brother, slapped me, and chaos pursued, physical altercation. Look, man, I was abused as a young kid, and I'm fucking bouncing, man. So I left, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I remember, man, for, a couple weeks, I was sleeping on like park bench. I remember trying to like sleep in cars. Like I remember telling a couple of my buddies, like, hey man, can you leave like your parents' car unlocked, right? Slept in the car, tried to sleep on like back porches, like anywhere I could. And man, this went on for a couple months. And again, like sometimes I would sleep on a kid's couch, like, oh man, my parents are out of town. You think I could sleep on your couch? Like, I was a sales guy. So hey, yeah, no problem. So, you try not for anyone to catch on. So you would 1 day, 2 days, something like that. And hey, man, like I lucked out at one point in my life where one of my friends, man, his dad found out what was going on and he took me in, and we were living there for, man, probably a year and a half, maybe even 2. And then that ran out, but we actually had like our own house in high school. And when I say our own house, me and my best friend in high school had our own house. So parties, everything you could imagine, craziness. It was wild times, drinking every night, every weekend. You know, but we thought it was okay. We had our own house. I mean, look, man, I had to develop an entrepreneurial spirit at a very young age. You know, I had to sell some drugs early on, like in high school, just to get by, man, because I had no money and had nowhere to get it. And so, man, that was tough. And then as I was getting older, I got a really good job when I was like 18, 19, man, right out of high school. I got a sales job and started making really good money. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was great, but there was these demons, man. There was these demons in the back of my head that I had no idea. And then I would go out, and I guess I was drinking to, you know, obviously, well, you know, get those demons out of there that you don't know about. That's the scariest part, man, is that I went my whole life until I was probably 32, 33, 34, man, within the last couple of years of even fucking dealing with this demon. So when you look back, you're like, man, I was this 19-year-old kid, and I started off making like $30,000 a year, man. Within a year or two, I had to eclipse 6 figures 2-3 times in a 5-year period. You know, I bought a house. So I was like, I went from this trailer park kid.
And let me ask you a question. When you did all those things, you were still fucking miserable, right?
I was fucking a miserable human being, man. A miserable human being, but I thought I was living the life. I lived in a nice house, man, you know, 2,500 square foot, brand new built home, had a couple of roommates, had the Lexus on rims, the lifted Tahoe, you know, the bachelor pad. Like we had, you know, the game room had, you know, beer pong table, all custom, and pool table in the dining room, big screen TVs, you know, sound systems throughout the house. And I was miserable, you know, girls over, parties.
Because you did the opposite of what you thought would get you the happiness, right? Mm-hmm. This is my champion that I will forever on this podcast. You did the things that society told you would get you to not feeling the trailer park.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Drugs and the abuse. But it wasn't until you got those things that you realized I'm still fucking miserable.
But you don't realize you're miserable. That's the scary part, man. That's the fucking scariest times, man. So there was this time from, you know, 21, 22, 20, 20. I remember at one point it had to be 20 because we went on a company trip and I wasn't 21, and I won 3 contests to Hawaii with the company I was with, and I couldn't go on one of them because I was in legal trouble. Go figure, right? And the other 2 I was able to go, but one of the first trip I went on, I wasn't old enough to drink, so I had to get a fake ID, like I was that guy. And you know, it was a great time, man. Like, but I remember like on this company trip, like they had a breakfast laid out the next day on the beach in Hawaii, and my ass woke up in the gazebo in front of everybody, still wearing night clothes, passed out drunk, and I'm 20 years old. You know, and you know, just good time. I mean, I had a great time my entire life. I had a great time, great time. You know, I was embarrassed by it for maybe a little bit, because then I'm like, man, you know, one day my sons are going to see this. One day, you know, somebody's going to hear this. But I'm like, man, it's my story. It is. I can't change it. You know, I can only change what like I do going forward. But, you know, there was a time, man, in my life from, you know, let's just call it 2021. I started making good money. I had a house. I had a career. And I threw it all away, man, because of those demons. But the scariest part is, man, you don't know. Like, you don't know what you're doing. And I was going out every night partying, you know, especially every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just doing everything I could, man. And I'm talking, you know, blackout drunk, hanging out with the wrong people. There was nights, man, like you go out and you get so drunk, you wake up. And I woke up on the side of like the freaking highway in like a front yard, and like, we don't know whose house this is. I don't know where my car's at. I don't know. I'm in someone's front yard, like, in, you know, miles away from where I was. Man, and you think it's funny, and it is now, but you're like, hey, bro, what if I took one step on the highway?
So let me tell you if you can relate with this, because this is a problem I have right now, especially since I've got sober. And I'm not trying to get on my high horse. I'm just merely stating the obvious. if I were to bust out an 8-ball of cocaine right now and do it, everybody would be gasp. Oof. Look at this fucking crazy person.
Yeah.
But yet Frank can knock out a case of beer a day and he's fucking cool. It's fine.
He's okay.
No,
yeah.
Motherfuckers, alcohol is acceptable. So y'all act like it's not nothing. There are people drinking bottles of vodka every day.
Yeah. Hey, man, if I had this right here and I was like, hey, salute, this is, I was going to have a drink. Man, some people, probably 10, 15% of people would be like, hey, bro, so it's, but they'd make a joke. It's 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
No big deal. Like, it would be funny.
But if I wrote out a line of meth at 9:30 in the morning, ooh, dude's got a problem.
Yeah,
like,
this guy's a piece of shit.
And that's what I have a problem with, because what people need to understand is this: if this virus has taught us anything, right? And we're talking about distracting yourself from your demons, regardless of what those are. If this virus has taught us anything, is that the number one vice in America is not alcohol, is not porno, is not sex, is not drugs. It's work. And for the first time, people have had to look at themselves in the mirror. And that's why divorce rate is through the roof right now. It's one of the reasons we got divorced. It's one of the reasons why I know 7 people around me that got divorced, because you don't have the distractions of leaving for the day. And what he's trying to tell you is these demons are affecting you in every part of your body and every relationship that you have, everything. And by you not addressing them, they hold full power over you. It's not until you own your story, you own the shit that happened to you, and you look yourself in the mirror and you do the deep work, that they don't control you anymore. And so why don't you talk about how, let's change the narrative. Let's talk about the steps that it took to kind of start switching the narrative out of where you were.
Yeah. I think everyone kind of gave me a pass my whole life. And look, man, people will make excuses for your past when they find out what you've been through a little bit, right? When you give them a taste of it, they'll, oh man, I can't imagine. And you can't, right? When people are like, I know what you went through. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't know what it's like to go to bed hungry. Unless you went to bed hungry, you don't know. You don't know what it's like to eat cat food, like, because you're fucking hungry. Like, you don't know. You don't know, unless you went through it, man, you don't know. And the craziest part is, man, people go through shit differently. Like, you can have something happen where, like, hey, man, I've been abused as a kid, beaten, like everything in the book. And hey, someone could have something smaller happen, if you will. Hey, man, but it could have affected and what I went through, and that's okay, right? And so, but my whole life, man, I was life of the party. I think I had a good heart. People saw that. I was respectful. I was a great sales guy, great employee, and work took my mind off that shit. So I would work 7 days a week, and people made excuses, man. So like you said, if you were, doing drugs or alcohol or something happened, man, you're like, it was not, not to say superstar, but hey, man, when you're like the number one sales guy in the company or in your region, people like overlook the other shit. They're like, well, this dude's production's over here. Okay, cool. Fire the other guy. And so that's what happened for so long, man. And then finally some of my legal troubles caught up with me. And look, I played the lead role in all my shit. So, I was the guy that, like, hey, there were some things that happened probably out of my control, maybe 10, 15% of them. But the 15 other things that led to that point, I wouldn't have been in that situation if I wouldn't have been the lead actor in my role, right? So this went on from 21 to, man, probably 30, 31, right? Even when I met my wife, man, she was on a ride for, 3-4 years.
And by the way, just a side note, I've never met her, but I've seen her on Facebook. I don't know if you're paying her cash every day or you drugged her. I don't know how you got her.
No idea, man. I fucking don't. First of all, she's gorgeous, beautiful, amazing. I mean, way out of my weight class. I fought out of my weight. And that's when people say, hey, man, are you a great sales guy? I'm like, look, motherfucker, this is why I'm a great sales guy. Like,
that baby, yeah.
Not with me for my good looks. She's not with me for my charming personality. I was poor when I met her. So, hey, man, when I met my wife, I was living in efficiency, $500 a month. Like it was a ladies detached garage. It was turned into an apartment, and that's where I was living. And I was living my life, man. I was isolated. So why she's with me, I have no idea, no clue. But me and my wife, man, for 2 or 3 years, I put her through hell, right? Look, man, there was one part of my life that was really deep and dark. My grandfather died right when I met my wife. And I probably went through a day in my life where every day for over a year, man, I would do coke. Okay. Almost every day, man.
Every day.
But I functioned. Like, man, my best friend didn't know. My wife didn't even know, man. I had to come clean to my wife after it happened. And it was a numbing effect, right? Because you couldn't drink every day at work, right? You couldn't drink every day and get up. Like, you couldn't. People, so it was like, oh, I can do this vice. And I did. And, you know, me and my wife got engaged. And I think where the cycle started turning was what was weird was when I found out my wife was pregnant, we had tried and we couldn't. And it was tough, man. It was emotional. We actually, man, went through a miscarriage on one, and it was like, fuck, man, like, it's just not in the cards for me, right? Like, you start to, like, this is not going to happen. And then you're like, do I even want kids? Because, like, how am I going to be a father, man? How am I be as a person? And, like, you know, I was making, you know, man, 60, 70,000 a year, you know, up to 80, right? Not great money, but not bad, but, like, not the life I want to live. You know, I was still pushing for where am I going to be? And I think, man, so when I found out my wife was pregnant, it was just the most excited, you know, thing I'd ever experienced in that life. But, man, it sounds weird, and I admitted that I was excited, but it didn't really hit me, you know, because it wasn't like a tangible, like, I don't know if it wasn't a tangible item. I don't know what it was. Like, it's not my son. Like, I can't see him. It was weird, man. And then I started getting scared, like, man, what am I going to be as a father? Like, you know, what am I going to do? And look, man, like, I didn't change then. Like, I wasn't out doing drugs. I wasn't drinking. One of the things that I think was really cool, which started the cycle, was my wife couldn't drink at all. You know, me and my wife used to go out and party, and, you know, my wife never did drugs or anything like that, but we'd go out on a Saturday night and drink too much, man. It would cause problems, right? Because my demons would come in and I'd project them, right? Like you do. And so I didn't drink, man, for the 9 months my wife was pregnant. Not one drink. I remember having like a drink, and I was like, I can't finish it. I just didn't drink, man. I just didn't want to. I saw what my wife was going through. And look, man, through all those pain and heartache and the stupid shit I did to my wife, man, I always knew, like, the day I met my wife, I saw my wife, I was like, I'm going to marry you. Like, fucking straight up. And I'd never said, like, there was no, I'm going to marry someone. Like, there wasn't in the cards, man. My longest relationship was like a weekend, right? Like, that was the norm. So my wife, man, it was crazy. I was like, and so all the stuff that I knew, man, I knew she was my best friend. There was just something about her. I didn't know what it was. But when she was pregnant, man, it didn't hit me like that. And I know that maybe sounds selfish. People could take that the wrong way, but that's the truth.
You want to know why? You want to know why it didn't hit you that way? And I'm just speculating, but I have a theory. You didn't have an example in your life of what an actual father looked like. So how the hell could you wrap your head around what you would be as a father? You know? And so it's such a disconnect, right? And it's the same thing just randomly this week. Not to get off topic, but I've heard people like, I've never even seen a proper marriage in front of me. So how would I even know what that looks like, right? And so you didn't know, only thing you know is like, oh man, what if I have this baby and these demons come in and I start losing my shit, right? But for some reason, like when the baby did come, what was the feeling then?
Man, so I remember, you know, baby was coming, and I was, you know, I was starting to think way more clear, right? The clarity was coming in because I wasn't doing all that stuff, right? And especially like there was some more clarity coming in, and so, you know, demons were coming in, and you know, me and my wife would still get into arguments because I'd get real defensive just because of my, you know, demons, and that's the way I was, and man, I still remember this day is, you know, obviously we're going through the pregnancy, we're sitting in the hospital, and, you know, my wife goes into emergency C-section, and they dress me up, and you know, they're prepping me, and they're like, hey, you got to have this mask and all that. And I turn the corner and my wife's cut open, and I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is, and I wasn't supposed to see this, but like, this is my wife. So I go into like defense mode of like, they're like this side of the curtain. I'm like, no, man, what are y'all doing? And all of a sudden, man, I hear this scream, and I see this little guy, man, and it still gets me emotional. And I just see this little dude, man, and I'm like, they grab him, man. I'm like, holy shit, like I'm getting emotional. I'm like, man, that's my dude, man. Like, that's my guy, man. Like, that's my fucking guy. Like, I made that. And I see my wife, man, holding this little guy, and he's just snugged up, and you could just see, man, she's shaking. She's just like, she's numb. She just got cut open, and it's like she did all this together. And man, I just see this little dude. She's holding this little guy. And I was like, it sounds crazy, and I get emotional about it because I knew my wife loved me, man, but it was the first time in my life that I felt like truly loved. Like I felt it was like a refresher, man. Like, you know, I didn't love my parents like that. I didn't feel that love. We didn't have that. You know, I had friends growing up, but I felt like a lot of them were facade, because you just, you know, your life, when you're not happy, man, it's hard to have true friends because you're not happy. And so everything you're saying and doing is fake, man. My whole life was fake. You know, who I was, what I was portraying was just fake. It was all bullshit. Like, I wasn't happy. I wasn't who I was. You know, you're drinking, you're embarrassed. Like, everything was fake, man. Really, everything was. And so, man, that was the first time in my life, man, I felt love, like from the bottom of my heart. And I was like, oh my God. And I just knew from that moment on, I was like, man, like, this is it, dude. Like, nothing else matters. Like, just, it didn't, it sounds crazy, but it was just literally flipped a switch. And, you know, look, man, I had to start self-auditing, like, who I was and who I wanted to be. And it was a hard thing to see, like, you know, hey, man, it's the hardest thing in the room or to do, to stand up in a room and say, man, I was fake my entire life. Like, the last 33 years, 34 years of my life have been fake. I wasn't the person who I portrayed to be. You know, I had drinking problems on the weekends. I had partying problems. I had character problems. I had, you know, drug problems. I had it all, man. I was unhappy. I mean, miserable, everything, man. You know, wasn't good to my wife. I wasn't good to my friends because I was fake. It said nothing about them, nothing. It was all about me because I just never experienced it. And like, when I was able to hold my son, it was like this whole world just like, wow, man, this is what real love feels like. It was the first time, and I was so excited, and I'm still so excited. Like, it's the greatest feeling on earth. And I just knew, man, that there was nothing I wouldn't do for that little guy. And I would figure it out, man. Like, I would figure it out that kid would ever have no idea what the fuck I went through. Never. Like, he would never have any idea what I went through. And I would never let him go through it. I've never let my wife go through that. And, man, it has helped our relationship so much, man. I mean, yeah, we still getting marital, you know, spouse. I usually blame her. She's hormonal, but, you know, hey, that's but no, you know, you know, the change in our relationship has been because of, you know, me not being a piece of shit, really. It's being like me being authentic, and, you know, we talk through things a lot more. She's my best friend. My son's my best friend. You know, now my youngest is my best friend. But it did, man. It took a lot of self-auditing, and it hurt, man. Like, okay, yeah, man, you were abused as a kid. Yeah, you went through these things. So what? Like, who cares, right? Like, stop being a little bitch about it. Like, no one cares, man. At the end of the day, no one cares. Like, we could have this, and you could talk, and this story could hit them, and it probably resonate for 24 hours, but then they don't care, man. They really don't. They don't care. Doesn't matter where you came from, whether it's the other end of the tracks. No one cares, man. And so I had to get over that shit. And it was like, how? It's like, am I going to let those things affect what my son, like my relationship with my son? And it was like, no. And then I flipped it the other way. I'm like, man, everything I went through, everything. Hey, bro, it was all worth it to get to this point. And that was it. I was like, it didn't matter anymore. It was like, okay, cool. All that stuff, man, it was great. I'm glad it happened, because if I hadn't gone through that, would I be here? Like, right? And so it's a real question. And would I have this great relationship with my wife? Because it's not fake. Because we've been through so much, man, that there's a lot of like trust now. And there's things, you know, and look, man, there's some stuff that my wife had asked me, like, look, you got to say the truth, because, and you know I'm telling the truth because you're not going to like the answer, you know, but it's led us to have this authentic relationship, man, that's built around us. It might not be the quote unquote, you know, perfect marriage. We're both highly emotional. We're both widely competitive, and like, you know, but hey, man, it's us. And there's no doubt that I love my wife more than anything on earth. There's no doubt that she loves me more than anything on earth. And it works for us, man. And I think it's all come to that point because of me, man, because of I had to realize what I was going through and just self-audit, and then like, okay, now where do you want to be, man? Like, what do you want to stand for? Where do you want to be, and where do you want to go? And, you know, that was the next step. Okay, now what? And I was still in the fitness industry, and, you know, doing some high level stuff. I was the managing partner for a place, making good money, man, but I still wanted more, right? Because you know what was crazy? This is where the growing up phase really happens, because you know you want to be a good person and a good role model, and you want to be there for your son, you want to be there for your family. But it's like, is it just money you want to be there for them, right? Is it the time you want to be there for them? Is it like, what is it you want to leave on them? Like, what's your legacy, man? And I remember once my son was born, my mindset started shifting. Legacy kept coming in my vocabulary. Like legacy. I think for the first time I was proud of my last name, because when I saw Connor John Gutkowski, and man, like Gutkowski, that's mine. I don't have a lot in this earth, but I have that. And legacy started popping up. Like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave? And look, man, it doesn't change overnight. So I was still making mistakes as far as like, shit, that didn't work. Let me try this. And I was at the gyms, and then I actually got a great offer to go manage multiple locations in Michigan, to be a partner, man, and grow the thing, 30 locations. I answered to no. I was the VP. Literally, it was the two owners and then me. I had no boss besides them. And I thought it was everything I wanted. 6-figure salary, company credit cards, just, hey man, I was calling the shots. It was everything I wanted. And then I realized that the money didn't matter, man. Like I wanted to make an impact over income. Fuck the money, man. It doesn't mean anything. I started thinking, wow, man, when I made 30,000 or 100,000, I was still miserable. And everything in between. So it wasn't the money, man. When I had enough money to spend, and X amount of dollars in your bank account, which was more than I ever deserved, I still wasn't happy, right? So it's not the money. Okay, so what is it? I want to make an impact. And I think one of the things that resonated the most was when I was up there in Michigan, we started a toy drive, and I started it with the help of one of the police officers with DPD. And what we did was, hey man, let's make our gym locations the drop off and do toys for kids in need. And Detroit, man, you go to Detroit, it's way different than Dallas, right? Like, people like Detroit's different. Okay. I loved it, but it's just different. And then we want to take it a step further. Let's get all these toys. Let's do a wrapping party, and then let's deliver them while on active duty, right? To get them out in the streets to kids that like, hey man, we delivered to one home, and the kid's like, I go, where's your Christmas tree? We don't have one. Got to go to the store and buy a Christmas tree. Like, man, you can't have, like, my man, we just dropped you off presents, now you don't have a Christmas tree. And the feeling that I got from that was the greatest thing on earth. Like, it was better than any dollar or any deposit in my account. It was something I was like, man, this is cool. I like this, right? And so I started wanting to do more, and I wanted to make that impact. I wanted to make an impact. The money didn't matter. And for the first time in my life, man, the money doesn't matter. And ironically, I've made the most money I've ever made in my life, because people think that I'm chasing money. And I'm like, the craziest thing about it is, man, you can't beat me because I'm playing an infinite game. I'm not playing for a paycheck. If you want to play for paychecks, we can go at it with paychecks, and I'll still wear your ass out. It doesn't matter what you want to play for. We can play for paychecks, pinks. It doesn't matter, because I'm playing an infinite game, man. I'm playing something that I want to leave when I'm gone. So there's no end to me. So while you're sprinting to get to an end, whether it be 6 figures, 20,000 a month, or a $500,000 home, hey, bro, congrats. You got there. Now what? Because I'm still going, because I know that my game doesn't end, man. So for me, there's nothing that this goal of, I want to leave this legacy, man, doesn't stop with making, X amount of dollars, having a nice car, hey bro, I have a $100,000 insurance policy on my sports memorabilia in my office. It doesn't mean anything to me. I throw it all away, because at the end of the day, the things that matter to me is my wife healthy, are my 2 sons healthy, and do I have them around? Yes, fucking great, dude. Everything else doesn't matter. None of it matters. It becomes easy to me. The work, it's not work anymore. It just becomes easy because I can use this to make an impact, right? Like I was telling you earlier, man, I met these guys at a build. We're doing their roof. Had no idea this guy's donated 3 million meals to hungry kids. And when we start sharing the story, he's like getting emotional. Like, man, you're one of the kids that we helped, and now you're an entrepreneur. So, hey, man, I just go to Kroger, buy, a couple $100 worth of food for him. Cause I was like, what kind of stuff? And I go drop it off on his front door. I just dropped it off on his front door. Like, here you go, man. Like, just thank you for what you do. One, thank you for what you do. That's awesome to be able to feed these kids, because I know what that's like to go to bed hungry, and it sucks. And hungry doesn't have a face. You don't know what it looks like. It's just a terrible feeling, and I can remember it. So thank you, and then thank you for your business. But to be able to use this platform now to give back, and now that I do have a little bit more money, I'm able to do things like that, and it's okay. And man, I think all that stuff comes back, but that's just part of the legacy I want to leave, and that's what I'm hoping like I can instill into my kids. And I'm hoping my kids will take that on too, because they have no idea, man. My son, he's so spoiled. He's got 2 arcades downstairs, Spider-Man car, Spider-Man bike. He's got he's got MTV Cribs in his toy room. He has no idea what's going on, man. This dude, he's living the life, man. The other day we're rolling through the neighborhood. He's got a Spider-Man robe on like Hugh Hefner. He's riding in his Power Wheel, dude, just cruising through the hood, and he's living life, man. And the smile on his face is the greatest thing on earth. It's all that matters, man. It's not the material. It's that smile that he has, man, because you can see it. And I think the greatest feeling for me on earth is when you go somewhere and you hear multiple times. And look, I'm one of those people, I don't give a shit what people say, good or bad. Like, hey, bro, you say something good about me, great, Austin, respect. You say, fuck you, Dustin, hey, man, respect. I respect you either way for your opinion. But when someone tells you, man, your kids feel loved and they look loved, bro, that there's nothing. It's like that right there is like, hey, man, I'm doing all right. Say what you want about the other stuff, and you probably got it. But hey, man, when someone says multiple occasions, your kids, they feel love, man. They look loved. They're happy. That's the greatest feeling on earth to me. And it's not just material, because you don't get that from materialistic things. You get that from being able to show them attention, rolling through the hood when you're doing that, catching your son's first fish, like all those things, man. Like, happy baby. We have happy babies not by accident, because we just showered them with love, man. My wife's the same way. Like, she's she's the greatest mother out there. And like, hey, man, if you get your wife a #1 mom mug, we're going to have some problems, because I take that shit serious, because my wife's, she's #1, man. And I believe that. She does an incredible job, man. I don't know how she does it, but she stays home and she takes care of our kids. She's made our house a home. She's incredible. I look up to her, man. I envy her. I respect the fuck out of what she does, man, because our kids are great. Like last night, I go, I love you, Connor. He goes, I love you more, Dad. And he's like, that's the love, man. My wife's instilled in them too, man. And it's great. So that's kind of, where it started, where it's gone, and the trials and tribulations, in the middle are, man, everything you can imagine has happened. Some of it's been fun. Some of it's been not so fun. Hey, bro, you wake up in a jail cell, you're like, hey, fuck. Well, that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. And, there's to be where we're at now and feel like we're only going at probably 10%, man. Where I'm at now is like, hey, listen, I'm only getting started. And, for me, it's like proving all these people wrong. Like, hey, man, remember when you used to laugh at me when I don't have Nikes? I'm going to fucking buy you a pair of Nikes and laugh at me now, right? Like, fucking laugh now. Laugh, and I'm just getting started. Remember when you used to call me white trash? How funny is it now, right? So, like, these things, like, I'm trying to prove all these people wrong. Like, oh, man, I wasn't going to amount to shit, right? I was going to be in jail. Well, you're right on part of it, because that did happen. But look now, man. And I don't want it to be an ego thing. I really respect everybody. Like, I wish everyone the best, man. When people call me asking for advice, they need help, man, I'll be the first one to help, because people help me. So I don't ever get it twisted and think like I've done all this on my own. I'm here because of me. Nah, man. Like, yeah, I worked my ass off to get here. Yeah, man, I've done all these things. But at the end of the day, man, like, I had a lot of great mentors. I've had some guys that have had my back, man. I've had my wife. I've had all these people, man, that have had my back. So to sit there and say, like, yeah, I want to prove all these people wrong. But at the same token, man, if one of these people that used to laugh at me called me up and needed help, man, I'd be the first fucking dude to help. Like, first one, without a doubt, man. And never hold it against them, because ultimately that's what I want, man, is to mentor people and help people. Like, I had someone the other day, man, you've helped me out with some money here and there, and I'll pay you back. And I'm like, look, dude, I don't care about that. The ultimate pay me back would be get your shit together, become successful. That's it, man. If you can do that, it's all worth it to me. It's all worth it. That's it, man. That I don't need the $100 back. I don't need the 500 back. I want you to get to that level you're trying to get to. If we can do that, man, it's gonna be great.
I mean, I don't know how long you went, but I don't want to muddy it up with too much words, because that was just, I want to play that back like over and over and over again. Dustin, you embody everything that I wake up and try to be every day. And I did not know how similar we were, and I saved it for the end of the thing. That fucking song is my fucking theme song to my life. No,
yeah, man, it is. It's crazy.
And the thing is this, I didn't grow up in a trailer park. I grew up on a country club. with a rich dad. So it doesn't matter. You know what I realized the other day? It doesn't matter where the fuck you came from. Everybody has their own shit.
Oh, yeah.
And who you are as a father, who you are as a man is all, and who you treat your employees at is all I care about, right? And you do those at the nth degree. You're 100% right. I don't need the money back when I helped you out. Just be better. Just do better. And let's grow together, right? And the same way, like, you feel like you're just getting started, I feel like I'm just getting started too. Yeah. And here's what people don't understand. Because me and you are playing the same game, the infinite game, we win every time. You don't stand a chance.
Because when are you going to lose?
There's no option, because all we want to do is make more money to give it away.
Yeah.
So that's all we want to do. You don't stand a chance. You're left in the dust because you're playing, how many apartments you have, how many rentals you have. I'm playing a game saying every day that I wake up, how many people can I lift up? That's it. And I see you with your clients. I see you with your employees. I see you with your family. And it blows me away. That's why I'm honored to give a platform to share your story, which needs to be everywhere. But I just wanted to tell you, man to man, I 100% respect who you are as a father. The business is separate. I know you're great at that. But as a father and a husband, you truly make me want to be a better person. I know that I'm going to walk away from this interview feeling better about my life. And I just truly respect the journey that you've been on. And I know you're just getting started. And I just want to thank you so much for laying it out there. I mean, I'm blown away, like seriously blown away how far you've come. And we have very similar stories, but we don't look at those past and we don't hide from them. We stand up in the middle of the fucking storm and we say, hey, we were kind of a shithead.
Yeah. It's all my fault. This guy did it.
Yeah. And it's not until you take ownership of your own shit that you can step out in front of it. It's simple.
Yeah. And stop judging people for their shit, man, because like, who the fuck are you, man? Like, seriously, everybody has their shit. How can you tell me how shit affects me? Like, who are you to sit there and say, and like, look, man, I just, like, I care about what my kids think, right? I just don't care what people think about me, good or bad. I just don't get caught up in it. Look, it's tough sometimes, right? Like, because you want to prove people wrong and it can be a contradicting. And I get it. Like, I'm going to walk contradiction because on 1 minute, I don't give a fuck what anyone says. And the next minute, I want to prove you all wrong. And it's like, hey, man, sometimes I'm like, people want to get a shot at the title. And, and I'm like, okay, man, you want, like, we can do that, right? Like, I can easily pull that out and we can go. But, stop judging people for their shit, right? Because you don't know what it went through. Like, look, you came from a country club, man. Like, but so you think you should get a pass because you came from a country club? No, but then I shouldn't get a pass from coming from the trailer park because it doesn't matter, man. Like, it really doesn't. And, we're blessed, man. We're going to be, the other day we're having a meeting. We'll talk to the accountant. We're going to do, we're projected to do almost $4 million in revenue our first year. And, people say how, what, and, competition. And I'm like, but I don't care about the competition. Because like you said, like in football, at the end of the day, if we play 4 quarters, you and I on our teams, and the scoreboard says 31-28, you win. Clear cut. There's no other things that happen. You play these 15-minute quarters, and at the end of that, there's a winner, right? If it's a tie, you go into overtime, but there's a winner. In the game, like you said, we're playing, it's infinite, man. So, when people talk about my competition, I'm like, what competition? Like, what? Because what are you judging on? Oh, because, well, they do 100 roofs a month. Okay, great. But what if you don't know what their goal is? Because in business, and you get so many of these fake mentors. Oh, I'm gonna make your business successful. How? You don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. You don't know what my goals are. And successful off what? There's no arbitrary set of rules in life about what's successful. So I don't know why we keep trying to make them what's successful. It's like, find out what you want to go after. Don't worry about your competition has 100 apartments, right? Because what if their goal really is to have the biggest corporate office? And so you're sitting here like, I'm going to get 101 apartments, and you call up Joe, and Joe, fuck you, I got 101. He's like, that's cool. Well, we got a 50,000 square foot corporate office. So this whole time you're chasing this demon, and it's not even what his goal is. So I just don't get caught up in that, man, because it's like you said, we're chasing this infinite game, man. Like, there's more beyond it.
One of the greatest things I've ever heard somebody do in a workshop was they said, name 3 people that you look up to, write their names down, and then I want you to write 10 qualities that they have that you see in them that make you look up to them, right?
Yeah.
And they made you cross out those people's name and write your name above it. And they said you would not see those things in those people if you didn't have them inside of you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And at the end of the day, it's a simple sum game. This is a you versus you. The only person you're fighting is yourself.
Absolutely.
And by you swimming against the current, you're messing with the universe. When he's telling you that song comes on randomly, it's to remind him over and over again of that and then where he's headed. And that's just the universe just tipping their fingers in.
Oh, yeah.
It's just how it works, man.
And you got to do
it. Why don't you we'll wrap it up here. And tell them about your business and how they can get a hold of you if they need anything. I know you are expanding, and just how they get a hold of you if they want to.
Yeah. So obviously on Facebook, Results Roofing. So just Results Roofing. We're in Keller, Texas is where our office is. If you want to go to the website, www.results-roofing.com. You can find me on Facebook at Dustin, and it's Gutkowski, Gutkowski. All contacts on there. We're a roofing company. We do roofing. We do some construction stuff all through DFW. We're doing a couple in San Antonio, in the Braunfels area, Austin, Waco. So, we can expand out. So we're definitely expanding, man. If you want to get a hold of us, or, more importantly, man, personal, professional, it doesn't matter. If you got a question about your life, you can reach out, right? Like, reach out personally. Don't mind sharing the story because, for me, hey, man, I come out every day with my back against the fucking wall. I remember these bad times because it keeps me going, and I don't want to ever forget them. But, hey, man, not everybody goes that way. And some people just want to know where to start, man, right? And so if anybody wants to get a hold of professionally, always there. Obviously, we love professional work. It's how we pay our families. But, more importantly, if somebody needs something personally as well, just a chance to talk, get it out. Hey, man, you can reach out to me personally too, on my Facebook and contact me and go from there.
Well, I love it, man. I'm so happy that you shared your story. I can't wait to get this out to the public. Dude, thank you so much, brother.
Thanks for having me.
We'll catch you next time.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
All right, you too, man.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.